Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. A quick announcement before we begin. Apparently, I upset YouTube algorithms so much, and this is likely due to a very specific group of friendly people who just don't appreciate my message, that it decided to shadow ban my content. For that reason, I ask that you take a minute now to subscribe to my channel on Rumble, as well as to support me on Substack, on Locals, and on Patreon. Your support means a lot. Today, I would like to draw your attention to a very concerning milestone that we have already crossed. By we, I'm talking about the United States. Interest payments on our national debt topped $1 trillion, while the budget deficit continues to surge. The fact that the deficit continues to grow only means one thing, that interest expense will exponentially increase. What can go wrong? First, we were told inflation is transitory, then came the promises of a soft landing, you know that very well, and that lasted for several years. Yet nobody ever attempted to address the elephant in the room. The Federal Reserve, the Treasury Secretary, everyone is silent on the effects of surging national debt that's been driven by the out-of-control government spending. The goal here is to keep the public, you, in the dark for as long as it takes. Interest on national debt hit $1 trillion. This is an increase of 30%. Just think about that. An increase of 30% compared to last year. We've got $35.3 trillion and counting in national debt. The bad news is that the more our government spends to pay interest on its debt, the less money there is to cover a range of other important programs, such as defense spending, while some may argue that it should be renamed to offense spending, such as Social Security, such as Veterans Affairs, and many other programs that millions of Americans depend on. This is precisely how this dilemma will affect an average American and has already affected. At this time, the federal interest expense on interest alone exceeds Medicaid, federal spending on Veterans Affairs. We love waging wars overseas, but we fail to take care of those who actually serve, apparently. And the interest cost exceeds federal spending on children. The worst news, that was the bad news, now the worst news is that as the wall of debt continues to grow, and by the way, the government adds about $1 trillion every 100 days to its national debt. So as that wall of debt continues to grow, so will the associated interest expense. In other words, there are plenty of reasons to be very concerned because this is just the beginning. Interest costs alone are projected to rise sharply through the next decade, from $1 trillion to $1.7 trillion by 2034. And at the rate that we're going, this is likely an understatement. By the end of this year, interest expense will top defense spending, Medicaid, defense discretionary spending, and premium tax credits. The Congressional Budget Office expects that interest will become the largest category in the federal budget in 2051, exceeding the amount spent on Social Security that year. The day of reckoning is indeed fast approaching. We can't argue with that.
America is also going bankrupt extremely quickly. And everyone seems to be sort of whistling past the graveyard on this one. You know, the Defense Department budget is a very big budget, okay? It's $1 trillion a year, DoD, Intel, it's $1 trillion. And interest payments on the national debt just exceeded the Defense Department budget. They're over $1 trillion a year, just in interest, and rising. We're adding $1 trillion to our debt, which our kids and grandkids are going to have to pay somehow every 3 months, and then soon it's going to be every 2 months, and then every month, and then the only thing we'll be able to pay is interest. And if this is, it's just it's just like a person at scale that has racked up too much credit card debt, and this does not have a good ending.
How committed
and
is...
so we have to reduce the spending.
The US budget deficit surged in August. It is now getting closer to $2 trillion for the full year. The 2024 deficit saw a 24% jump year over year. The fiscal year ends in October, so we still have 2 months ahead of us, and what a 2 months it is shaping up to be. Budget deficits drive the increase in national debt. But remember that the United States government does not have to pay off its debt. Once treasuries mature, the government simply issues new debt and effectively rolls old debt into new debt, just at higher interest rates. So what all this means is that as a US taxpayer, you're effectively working to support interest payments. Your contributions are not going to be used for the benefit of sustaining infrastructure, for social programs, for lifting thousands of Americans out of poverty, or any other reason. The allocated funds for those programs in the federal budget will decline because paying creditors always comes first. Forget about new roads, forget about new hospitals, forget about schools. The US creditors will have to be paid no matter what. This is why it is so important to understand that this is already happening now. It is not something that we will have to deal with 10 or 20 years from now. Well, the goal of my channel is to share real information, is to share facts with you and then allow you to make informed decisions. I'm not here to sell anything or to give you financial advice. I would suggest that you start being very, very careful with what you invest in right now. Don't invest into anything out of panic, including gold, because I frankly believe that there is absolutely nothing that you can do with a bar of gold when worse comes to worse. It's certainly a great hedge against inflation, and you should invest into safe assets. But as you invest in precious assets, for example, into precious metals, you also need to pay off your debt. You need to make sure that your financial situation is improving. You need to consider other ways to protect yourself. Pay off your debt first, because as there is a chance that inflation may increase once the Federal Reserve starts cutting rates, many people will struggle making those monthly payments and paying for necessities on top of that. So getting rid of liabilities should not be on the back burner. That is my 2 cents. Thank you for watching. I hope that this video was helpful and that you found the information that you needed to make informed decisions. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.